Good evening. I would like to call this meeting to order. Mr. Lotzenheiser, may I have roll call, please?
President Wade, let the record show that all 5 members are in attendance this evening.
Thank you. Please join me in a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I motion to approve the agenda. That would be Ms. Van Hook seconding. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Mr. Lotzenheiser.
Well, President Wade, members of the board, well, summer's over and we are back. And so when we look at upcoming events that are going on for the superintendent's report, you can see it's a lot of the stuff getting ready for that first day of school on Thursday, July 23rd. And we're very excited about that. Today, we actually welcomed our new teachers. New teacher orientation started this morning and will go on until the teachers return next Monday. And then as you look at the different events for the public and for our parents, on Tuesday, July 21st, we have the preschool Meet the Teachers, and then we stagger that into the elementary schools Meet the Teachers, and then the middle schools Meet the Teachers, all in that. And we try to stagger the times because we know that we have parents that have kids in multiple grade levels to make sure that they can go to those open houses. We do have freshman orientation on Wednesday, July 22nd at both of the high schools with that first day of school on July 23rd. Our next board meeting is not until August 11th. So for the superintendent's report, really short today, but those are the upcoming events. We're really excited for the start of the school year and to welcome our students and our teachers back on our campuses. So thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I was writing down middle school open house. I did not write that down, so I appreciate it. Yeah. All right. Ms. Zimmerman, do we have any requests to speak? Okay, thank you. This brings us to consent agenda items. I motion to approve consent agenda items 5.1 through 5.14.
Second.
That's going to be Ms. Jarman seconding. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. With that, we'd like to thank Arizona Interscholastic Association and Higley Football Boosters for their generous donations to the district. This brings us to our information item. Policy DJE, Bidding and Purchasing Procedures, first read. We'll now hear from our CFO, Sharon Rushkamp, who has proposed updates to this policy DJE.
Thanks, President Wade, members of the board. With every year, the USFR comes out with some changes on July 1st. One of the changes they made this year in conjunction with ADE was the purchasing threshold for when 3 quotes are required. It has been for quite a long time. I've been here 6 years, and it has not changed in that amount of time, $10,000. So once we hit that $10,000 amount, it requires whoever is entering a requisition to get 3 quotes, and that is cumulative. So if you happen to be the school or the department that hits that $10,000 mark, it then starts with you, and thereon we have to get the 3 quotes. So with inflation and everything rising, they have increased that to $15,000, but because our board policy states $10,000, we are requesting to, increase it to $15,000, but what we would like more than that is just for our policy to state that we will follow the statute and the Arizona Auditor General requirements.
Just so I'm clear, so we're not going to actually put a limit. We're just going to say that we're going to follow whatever number USFR says.
Yes. Yes, and that's what a lot of districts are doing, just so that it can take effect immediately. As we continue to decline in staff and we continue to do more with less, this is just one more thing that is going to help our staff, because it might not sound difficult to get 3 quotes, but depending on what the commodity is, you might have to start chasing people down, sending multiple emails, things like that. So it would just take a little burden off the offices.
No? Oh. I do have some suggestions for the policy, but if you have anything to add, you can go before I add anything.
Well, I just wanted to voice my support for this. It makes good sense to follow the USFR recommendations, so.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about the amount, but obviously, you know, with inflation and such like that, since we have to comply with this standard anyways, this kind of makes sense, because therefore you're always going back to that standard. And then generally speaking, can you go over the purchasing procedures? Because this was one thing I wasn't really privy to, is that we have a set kind of vendor list. And so we have to utilize what we have particularly when we get, in general, I'm for as many quotes and bids as you can get, but it seems that there's certain protocols that I didn't realize. If you can expand.
President Wade, Vice President Jarman. Yes, so there are many procurement rules in the state of Arizona that we have to follow. So one would be, trying to find whether it's an existing vendor that we've had really good luck with, that we want to stay with, or you see something another district's done that you like, you want to reach out to that vendor. But once we hit the certain threshold, we either need to get 3 quotes or we need to find a vendor who is on a cooperative contract. Now, there are a lot of vendors who are on cooperative contracts in the state of Arizona, different co-ops that are out there. They have done the due diligence for the district until we get to that $100,000 mark. That's not changing. I know they're trying to get that $100,000 increased as well, because again, it does not take much to get to $100,000 if you're talking a major repair or something, the way costs have gone up in the last 5 years. But for now, that's staying in place. So yes, we either, and it doesn't even have to be an existing vendor that we have. If we find somebody new that we want to use, then we have to go through the process. There's a process of adding them as a vendor, and they have to be checked out and there's multiple rules that they have to follow and forms to fill out, get their W-9s, everything to make sure it's all legitimate.
Okay, I appreciate it. And I just want to highlight, the district really does a good job. We really try to get the schools prepped before the end of the year. We kind of have a crunch time. And to make sure that we utilize those classrooms and we hit the ground running when school starts. So I really appreciate kind of this digging in, and I see kind of, it gave me a little bit more empathy and such on how. But yes, I really love, the more I dig in, the more I see how thorough the district is as getting multiple, and I've quizzed all you all have answered my questions, honestly. So, okay, and I just want to highlight down on page 4 so that everybody sees this. This is really helpful. It's the sex offender area. So, I just want to highlight that this is constant, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yes, you're welcome.
Board Member Jarman, can you explain what you mean by this is constant?
Thanks so much, Board Member Van Hook. You guys can do your due diligence down at the bottom, page 4. It says registered sex offender prohibition. Just again, being mindful that the district is doing their due diligence to ensure that they've got good quality people doing the services on the district.
Got it.
Is
Thank you.
that your question?
Yes, thanks.
Okay.
And President Wade, Board Member Jarman, we also have that language on our website. In our purchase orders that we print out and that we email to our vendors have a link to our website that talks about all the terms, conditions, everything that needs to be in compliance, or the contract becomes null and void.
And that is per state statute?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. If nobody else has any questions, I do have some governance suggestions I'd like to consider before second read. For cooperative purchasing, I'd like to add language. Let's see here. Requiring documentation when cooperative purchase contracts are used. Language such as, when utilizing a cooperative purchasing contract, the procurement file should include documentation that the cooperative contract was determined to be in the district's best interest and represents a fair and reasonable price. Being on the Auditor General Committee, I've learned quite a bit, and I understand cooperative purchasing can be an excellent tool, but I want to ensure that we're documenting why it provides good value versus, another vendor. That's one suggestion. And then where we have sole source procurement, requiring written justification whether competitive procurement is bypassed because only one vendor is available. And the language would look something like, sole source procurement shall include written justification documenting why no reasonable alternative exists. Then there's, it says reasonable judgment should be used to ensure the purchases are advantageous to the district. I'd like to be able to clarify reasonable judgment, because to me that seems kind of fairly subjective, and I'd like to see it say something like, purchases shall be made using reasonable efforts to obtain the best value for the district, considering price, quality, availability, and operational needs. Under annual procurement report, just for the sake of board oversight, I'd like to consider requiring an annual report summarizing procurements that were made below the written quote threshold. For example, the superintendent shall provide the governing board an annual summary of procurements made below the written quote threshold, including total expenditures by category. And this wouldn't require board approval for small purchases, but it would just provide helpful oversight and identify procurement trends for us. And then under emergency procurement, I think the policy could address like emergency purchases by requiring documentation such as the emergency, why competitive procurement wasn't feasible, and then reporting those purchases to the governing board. And I know that we had recently a similar situation where it was reported, so I'd like that to be a standard. And then for conflict of interest, I'd like to consider adding language that reinforces procurement activities must comply with those statutes, and that any actual or potential conflicts be disclosed and managed in accordance with Arizona law. And that's it. I can submit these suggestions for possible consideration to be sent to the entire board. And then we can possibly consider those for second read.
So just, Board Member Van Hook, you're gonna, what you verbally said to us, you'll go ahead and email it to us. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, all right, thank you.
When we get that, can we look at the original and then also have the proposals and go through them that way?
Yeah, I'll make sure
Okay.
that there's
Yeah, thanks.
differentiation, so you can look at the original and the proposals redlined, and if there's multiple different sections where maybe redlined, blue lined, and we can go from there.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Rushkamp. This brings us to action item 7.1, approval of listing agreement between Higley Unified School District and Nathan and Associates Incorporated. Do we have any questions or comments from the board before I motion? Go ahead.
I do. Thank you. I asked to pull this off of consent because I did have some questions. If you may come to the podium to be able to answer some
Yeah,
questions.
Board Member Van Hook, we do have Ryan from, go ahead, and from Nathan and Associates here, and to be able to answer any questions there. We additionally, if we need to online, we do have our attorney that helped negotiate this agreement as well.
Thank you.
Or Carrie can answer those questions. Thank you, Carrie.
Okay, so the note that was provided to the board indicated that we're listing the property for sale, but the agreement authorizes the broker to market for both sale and lease. Is there a reason why the agreement includes leasing authority?
Typically, first of all, thanks for having me. My name is Ryan Duncan. I'm with Nathan Associates. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. That's a boilerplate language that we use in our agreement, and we can edit it as you see fit as it serves the district. So if the preference is just to be for sale only, we can make it that way. Or if we want to maintain some optionality, we can leave it as is.
Okay, thank you. I just, I guess we have to determine, what our intentions are, and then adjust the agreement accordingly. And if our intention is just to sell, then I would like just that language just to be included versus both. And then for automatic renewal, is it typical that it auto-renews, or, because typically for public entities, it's often preferred that it comes back to the board versus an auto-renewal?
Again, standard language that we use in most of our listings, totally open to suggestion and editing. And oftentimes we do edit portions of it, including the auto renewal. So that's not a problem.
Okay, so I guess that for us, is that something that we can consider changing to where it does come back to the board if the agreement is for a year and we don't happen to sell the land within that year, that it does come back to the board for approval?
Board members, President Wade, Member Van Hook, I think that's something we can discuss. If the board wishes to approve the contract with certain changes tonight and then authorizes the superintendent to execute the agreement, we can do that as well.
Okay, thank you. Bear with me as I read through my notes here. So it says, if the property sells during the listing period, the broker receives 2% commission regardless of whether Nathan and Associates found the buyer. The agreement, so my question is, why is the commission payable if the purchaser is identified through another source rather through broker's efforts?
Great question. In our experience, we're representing you, and so we're being paid based on the property selling. So the buyer could come in through another source, but typically in our experience, 90+% of the buyers, we're outsourcing, we're a proactive seller's advocate. And so generally speaking, the seller pays a fee to the procuring brokers. In this case, I believe we will be the procuring broker, but it's 2% paid by the seller.
Okay, thank you. And then it says the property is listed on a submit basis, meaning there is no advertised asking price in the agreement. Offers are submitted to the district for consideration. So are we going to appraise the property to get an estimate of what the value is before we consider accepting any offer?
I believe you are, and that would be our recommendation.
President Wade, Board Member Van Hook, yes, we just sent a PO out this week for an appraisal. They said it would take about 4 weeks, but yes, we are having that done.
And do we know approximate cost of that appraisal?
It was a couple $1,000s.
Okay, thank you. And then the dual agency, so you may represent both the district and possible purchaser. My concern with that is to ensure that the district gets the best value versus, I guess, negotiating a value that's best for the buyer.
Understood. The dual language, the dual representation language is based in real estate law. If there's one broker at the table, generally speaking, it's dual agency, and so it's kind of a catch-all. But again, we'd be working on your behalf to generate as many offers as we can and find the highest value for the property to serve the district.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And that's all for my questions. But I guess at this point, if we consider changing the agreement, the only 2 changes I would have is removing the leasing option from the agreement, and then also having it coming back to the board after the 1 year. If it doesn't sell within the 1 year, that it comes back to the board for approval. So I guess, what do you guys think if I can make that motion?
President Wade and Member Van Hook, can I make a suggested motion?
Yes, please,
Would
sure.
that be okay? Okay. So if the board so desired, and given Brian's feedback, based on your questions, the board could move to approve the agreement as presented with the change in paragraph 1 to only selling the property, and then in paragraph 2 to remove the automatic renewal period, or the automatic renewal for successive listing periods.
Can I ask a question, Ms. O'Brien? In general, I mean, ultimately, when I look at this, the only issue that I have potentially is what state or process we would be in a year from now, in that what if things are close, let's say, in that I have obviously never dealt with selling commercial properties, but, I've owned homes and sold homes. So I go, is there a potential in which that could create a problem for us in terms of closing or going through the process or anything else, depending on where it's at? Or is this something that's easy to navigate around?
So President Wade and board members, candidly, I am not a real estate lawyer. I do more day-to-day advice. Our real estate lawyer did work on this agreement. On my, kind of novice thoughts on this would be that candidly, it'd be more of a risk to the agent to accept non-successive auto renewal periods, right? Because they only get paid when the property sells.
Correct.
And we would just have to make sure the timing was such that it got renewed timely.
Sure.
And keep track of that.
Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Brown.
President Wade, thank you so much for showing up. I was just going to ask a couple more questions. I'm not comfortable right yet to start pushing forward with something. I wanted to notice the rate. That looks really good. So I really appreciate you working with us on that. The contract term length, can you expand? Is this typical 1 year?
So what we've discussed and what we've contemplated is a potential for a rezone on this property. And so procedurally, you could find that the latency period of the escrow could go beyond a year. And that would be my only concern with not having some way to renew with an auto, but there's different language we can utilize that, you know, let's say the property's in escrow actively, it would renew for successive periods until the escrow closes. If you wanted to remove the auto renewal language, which I think is the primary concern. And so there's a couple different ways to handle that. I would leave that to your attorneys, but I do think, to your question, you could find yourself sort of in a weird spot where you're in escrow on a property that's going through a municipal process at the town that extends beyond a year, and that's out of everyone's control.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for the response. Honestly, I don't feel like you came highly recommended, so I really commend you on your reputation. There aren't many who do commercial, this type of avenue, so I really feel confident in pushing forward. I think a year, that I would push it maybe even a titch longer than that. Like, I would feel more comfortable around 2 years. Sorry, Board Member Van Hook, but I think realistically, that's where it would get closed on, because I know the anomalies in real estate. So I would be comfortable maybe just having, you know, it renewed potentially, but then the 2-year cutoff. I am all about touching base, stuff like that, you know, and holding you accountable if you can't really provide the service we're looking for, et cetera. And then when it comes to the sell and lease, I don't know if I'd want to wipe that lease word right off from the rip. I would probably want the language a little bit, you know, just open. We really want, the district really needs this. And so I really want to give you kind of the tools that you need to do your job. So I appreciate that. So that's kind of where I'm at, you guys.
Thank you, Madam President. So thank you for being here, Mr. Duncan, and all the work that you and your company are doing on behalf of Higley. I think what we have here, what I would prefer is for 2 motions. I don't really have a problem removing the word lease, because it was never I didn't make financial sense to me to lease the property. So I'm fine with that. The thing that I just want to point out to everybody is there is a clause in here that says either party can cancel the agreement with 24 hours notice, correct?
That's correct, sir.
So, I mean, after 1 year and 1 day, we could just cancel it. So I don't really see the need to have the auto renew removed when we can cancel, you know, in 30 days if we wanted to. So I feel like that's covered. So I would prefer 2 separate motions so I could vote in favor of one, and then I just don't see the need for the second one. That's just my thoughts.
President
I was
Wade.
just going to say that it's a moot
Sorry.
point, since we do have that option to be out in 30 days. So that doesn't bother me at all. The lease I'm fine taking out.
President Wade, so because of that second language, it's kind of contradictory, I feel like, as well, because we can cancel. But clearly, if we're in escrow, we're not canceling the contract, right? So my concern is if there's no movement in the sale of the land or whatever, then having it come back to the board within the, you know, after the year is up. But clearly, if there's movement and there's an interested party and we're in an agreement and there's a buyer, then we're going to go through with the process. So maybe including language that says, you know, if there's no movement, however you want to word it legally, but pretty much saying if there's no movement, then consider coming back to the board after the year. But if we're in negotiations, then that's a whole different story.
President Wade, but we can do that after 6 months. We can do that after 3 months if we're not happy. We can do that at any time. Yeah, next week.
So President Wade, Board Member Van Hook, just to clarify, the term provision, there's nothing in conflict. So the term length, right, is 1 year, and then it auto renews, and then your termination provision is separate, and that allows this is a very broad termination provision, right? You don't have to give a reason, it's not like non-appropriation. So I think this language is actually broader than what you're describing. So my recommendation would be to leave that as is rather than modify it, because the modification would be narrower than this language is currently written. The board or the district has more authority to cancel the contract as it's written right now.
That's fine. And so as far as the removal of the lease, so the wording to approve as presented with, do you know the line item for the?
So it would be, Member Van Hook, it would be in paragraph 1 in line 3 to remove the word lease.
Paragraph 1, line 3.
Right.
All right.
Is there any, would that kind of pigeonhole you when it comes to the sale in general to eliminate the word lease? I know we talked about this briefly, but if you can expand.
I don't think it would pigeonhole our process. The only reason we might include the lease language is just simply to broaden the scope of potential users and buyers that might show up. But as we've discussed in previous meetings, we believe the lease is less likely today in today's market. But again, we're relatively, not relatively, we're very confident that a buyer shows up for the property.
Thank you.
I move to approve the contract as presented with paragraph 1, line 3, to remove the word lease.
I'll second it.
Seconded for Mr. Glover. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time here today.
Thank you so much.
Sir. I
Of course, really
appreciate it.
Thank you.
This brings us to future agenda items, because you worded it for the whole thing, correct? I just want to make sure that's what I understood all of that to be. Wonderful. Ms. Zimmerman, did you get all of that? Otherwise, Ms. Van Hook, for some of the language in the motioning, if you want to help. Okay, perfect, great. Because I
Yes.
definitely did not, so I was just making sure.
I will email all that.
I tried writing as fast as I could, but it's confusing. This brings us to future agenda items. Does anybody have any requests for future agenda items? Okay, great. I motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
That's going to be Ms. Van Hook seconding. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Please drive safe, all 5 of you.